Julia Sutherland, welcome to the DCA podcast.
To be here. Thank
It is an honour for me to have you on. Firstly, I think it would not be me if I didn't acknowledge how much of a gift you are to me personally as our friendship. I think sometimes we forget to acknowledge somebody outside of just what they do in terms of their business. You are a gift to me, and being in the work you do, you have so much insight and wisdom to share that I thought it would be genuinely just rude of me to not invite you on and to share that. Welcome to the podcast, my angel.
my love. It is such an honor. Genuinely, I love chatting to you when there's not cameras and microphones. So I really love as well the way that you talk about your subjects of interest with knowledge and insights.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Because we both understand our internal worlds and we hold that space in coaching and mentoring and what we do professionally, we're able to really help people, even each other. That is a gift, and it allows the person you're talking to feel just really seen and heard. What I was trying to get at is acknowledging how you make me feel seen as a human.
And I mean, we'll stop now in a minute. We'll stop, going on about it. But I was making like a little mind map of my resiliency, resources.
Stunning.
Coming up to like a period of change and transition. So I was like, yeah, what do I have that will help me get through those like difficult times? And then I've just mapped out loads of different people because I think your support network is such a huge aspect of that. And you're on there. One of the things I find is like, I feel like you're willing to challenge my thinking. You won't just kind of accept it automatically. You'll kind of go, why? And it's very interesting.
Thank you. And that's very kind. And doing the work you do, I guess, for the benefit of the listeners, what do we need to know about you to understand why you do what you do professionally and how you came to be where you are as a business psychologist?
Okay, so I like to think I have a head for business and a heart for people because I've always been really interested in psychology, and I figured then if we can use that knowledge and understanding to apply it to how we experience work and try and improve how we experience work, then that's going to be a good use of my time because we spend a lot of time in So I suppose the work that I do at the moment, one aspect of it is I suppose coaching individuals who are caring, compassionate, capable people, but they are stretched quite thin because they're responding to everyone else's needs and living kind of in response to maybe everyone's expectations. So I help them to find their voice and use it, and then so they can be more like the author of their own lives rather than the character. So that might look like, stop people pleasing or be able to handle conflict or just living a life that actually feels like their own and that they're not just lost. So that's one side of it. And then the other side of what I do is I work mainly with leaders, managers, business owners to, again, improve and reclaim their professional lives and improve the way that they do business. So going from kind of good to great. And that's, again, looking at their kind of the processes and those kinds of things, streamlining and systematizing their business. But then also there is very much the people side. Like it's all well and good to have these tools that help you improve how you do things day to day. But then there's always the mindset, the psychological side of it, and even just the skills to lead yourself and lead others. So yeah, that's kind of the two sides of what I do. And I feel very fortunate that it's something I'm really interested in and passionate about.
When did you first recognize that you had more of a curiosity of how people think and, I guess, wanting to understand behavior at a deeper level? Do you recognize when that started for you?
Yes, I have where I credit it is when I was 11. So I was on holidays and I read a book called The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks, so it's not a psychology book, but he's a neurologist, and he wrote these different kind of collection of case studies of his patients. And it was just so fascinating to me that if you get one little damaged part of your brain, that might mean that, I could be looking at you and I recognize it's Dee Dee, but I cannot pinpoint your face as being your face, or the impairments on like language and vision and that kind of thing, where your vision is fine but your recognition or your understanding of it isn't. So I found that fascinating. I think especially at that age, because you're kind of pre-teen, getting a sense of like what's real in the world, and then you're also still one foot in that childhood fantasy sort of space. And I feel like this is just the right time where I was like,
crazy. Like,
I remember it because there was a World Cup on, and so I remember the holiday very specifically.
oh, fascinating. I mean, we could just end whatever I planned for this and talk about that. That is so interesting.
In the book.
And I always think when you arrive at a space where you are really helping somebody understand themselves, that comes from you having done that work for you, because you can't hold space for somebody if you don't know yourself. So I imagine you're using a lot of your experience and your qualifications to also better you as a person.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's
really
quite
important.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's so important to
Mm.
keep learning and keep developing, because, like, say, I think back to when I was doing my undergrad in psychology, you know, so you're 18, 19, 20, and like thinking about, I suppose, what I found useful and personally relevant for me was, oh, great, I can find these tools to kind of manage and control my inner world. And I can, you know, be very able to manage my emotions and think in a certain way. And that's helpful to me. And again, it's great. And I think it's useful to have those skills. But then you realize, well, hang on, are you just intellectualizing rather than actually feeling a lot of your emotions? Are you just kind of going, you know, putting a silver lining on every experience, which again, it can be useful to do that, but it's also really important to allow yourself the space to feel what you're feeling, and that will allow you to heal or grow or, you know, reach kind of different aspects of yourself. So I think, yeah, that's why I find it so important to just keep exploring and expanding. Like, I can view the world through a certain lens of, oh, I'm familiar with psychology, but recognizing that that's not the only way to view the world through, you know?
No, that makes perfect sense. And I guess when you are in professionally, how do you see businesses that are successful versus not successful? Like, what does that look like when you are looking at a team dynamic? What do you recognize as patterns that you're like, oh, okay, this isn't really going to work for you guys?
I mean, I think every company has its own stuff to deal with, you know? And I think especially because I'm working with a lot of like micro, small and medium size enterprises where the owner of the company and their personalities and their maybe, you know, unhealed kind of experiences can have a big impact on how the whole business operates, as opposed to when you're working with larger organizations and there's, you know, one personality doesn't make as much of an impact.
Interesting. How does that show up? Curious. Like when it is a smaller and it is them and their personality that's kind of dictating the direction of it. What do you see? Is it because there's just not an alignment, or people are too invested in their personality versus the business, or what do you see as the problem areas of that?
Or like it really does show up in lots of different ways. I think one common theme that I'm seeing recently a lot is kind of perfectionism. And a lot of business owners, you know, they have that inner drive. Actually, let me come back to that word, drive.
Okay.
But they have this, you know, strong ambition and desire to get things done. They have high standards for themselves. And again, that can be a positive. And then the way that it can hold them back is, I suppose, when you have that perfectionist mind, it's like you're setting yourself these really high goals. And then when you achieve it, you kind of think, well, if I can achieve it, it must not have been a good enough goal. You know, it's too easy. Okay, what's the next thing? And so you're never really getting that moment to actually enjoy the process or the realization of a goal, because something else is always around the corner. And sometimes it's that kind of proving oneself, like looking for the sort of external measures of success, be it financial, be it awards, or, you know, just being seen as this successful person, but not actually believing it deep down.
And that must be harder if there's a team involved, because that's going to show up in how you not externally reward them, but like how you respond to their achievements. Because if nothing's good enough for you, whatever they do for you isn't really going to be good enough. So I know a lot of coaches or teams that don't feel like they're doing a good job because their boss has such high expectations of them that when they do things well or whatever, it's never really acknowledged, because it's just in their world. Great, keep going, keep going. And that doesn't give you a sense of okay, great, like, did you notice that I did a good job? Or like, where is that fitting in?
And sometimes managers will come to me being like, oh, you know, I need to learn how to have those tough conversations and performance manage. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. But then sometimes what emerges is, oh, I need to also praise. I need to actually recognize what's done well, because we do learn better when we're in that more positive, open, curious headspace. And critiques, while necessary, don't necessarily put us in the best headspace for thinking and learning. So I would say it's really important to actually focus in on the reward and the praise element. But again, that can sometimes take a bit of a mindset shift, because for themselves, they're going, I don't expect anyone to praise me. I don't praise myself. I just work hard because that's what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody, especially your employees. Like, it's very different if you own a business versus you're employed by a business. Like, there is a different, you've got different like skin in the game for it.
And then if people are bought into like a vision or whatever the personality has created this business concept of, or that they're running, you're in that, and you want to be on that journey when there's no sense of, hey guys, we're on this journey together, and it's just go 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 go. It's like, what are we on this for?
Yeah.
There's no sense of like team, because you're so isolated in your view of yourself. But no, yeah.
I was going to come back to that word drive, because I mentioned it there, and I think it's something we think of a lot when we think of like successful business owners, and it's that they're driven. But I think we can run into some problems there when we describe it as that, because it's not a drive, right? Like, hunger is a drive, thirst is a drive. These are uncomfortable sensations that tell you, if you don't do something, damage to my organs is going to happen and I will die, right? So like, if there was something wrong with my hunger drive and it meant that I never felt hungry and then I never ate, I would die. It's not the same with not achieving your goals in business, right? It's not life or death. And you might say like, okay, yeah, that's just semantics. Like, of course, I know that I'm not going to die if I don't achieve my goals. And it's like, okay, yeah, consciously, maybe you know that. But does your body know? Does the more kind of primitive part of you know that you are safe if you don't achieve? And I think sometimes no is the answer, as in like, again, consciously we know we're okay, but subconsciously, or in that kind of deeper level, it is like, if I don't achieve this, if I don't get to this next level, I am under threat.
Yeah.
And so operating from that kind of fight or flight responses, it makes it less enjoyable, when you do get there, because that kind of shuts off the pleasure centers of our brain when we're really stressed,
Yeah, and it's a hard pill to swallow. It's like, it's not life-threatening, it's just ego-threatening. Like, when your sense of yourself is threatened and that's uncomfortable for you, you will see it as a death.
Yeah.
It's like, if I don't maintain this image of myself within my profession or my business, and there's so much attached to it, that to me feels like a death.
Yeah.
It's very a lived reality. So I think people, like, when you understand that, you can separate yourself. But when people are in it, when they wake up every single day with that fight and flight nervous system dysregulation, and that shows up in your business, it's a recipe for disaster, because everything is a threat. You're on hypervigilance. There's nothing's creative. It's just reactive all the time. And you can't have good conversations if you're managing a team. You can't look at problem solving or how to manage business development from a place of perspective that's not just threatening you all the time.
Exactly. There's a quote that apparently a board member of Tesla said to Elon Musk, which is, no one comes up with a good idea while being chased by a tiger. It's just that very like, when we're stressed, we're not thinking big picture, what's going to come next. We're just in that moment and reacting. So,
and it's hard, because when you are a certain personality that is type A, overachieving, perfectionist, and your company is built on that because it's successful and everyone wants to be on that journey, all you do is attract a team that is like you. So you're not really hiring challenges or different perspectives. You're just hiring yourself in different formalities when you are building from a sense of ego.
Yeah. I think the really good business owners that I do see, they do have that team around them that they know, I'm no good with this. I need people around me who are thinking in a different way. So I think the people who can grow their team, have a loyal team, have a good, growing business, that is an element of it, is knowing yourself and then looking for different people than you.
Yeah, I guess like the whole like Tom Cruise, like, just find somebody that says yes. Like, if you build a world where you just attract yes people, that will get you very far for sure. But where exactly, I don't think you're gonna like where that is.
Yeah,
as a sense of, I'm safe, I'm and enjoying life, really.
Yeah.
Because you can't really enjoy life whilst you're being chased by a tiger,
Exactly.
internally and metaphorically.
Exactly. And going back to that thing about drive, when we're talking about, again, it being this like survival instinct or feeling as if it is, like if we, like say, for example, if I stole a loaf of bread because I'm starving and I haven't eaten in days, you could probably have some compassion for me, right? You could go, okay, look, it's not right to steal, but I understand why you did it because you're trying to survive. If a business owner is operating from that same mentality, it kind of justifies anything and everything, right? Because, and we see that business owners, that really people who are lauded as being really successful, are not very nice to work for, not very good to the planet, not great to the people around them, like, right? And it's like you're neglecting yourself, your relationships, and the people around you because it's all in pursuit of this goal. But I'm driven, right? I need to do this to survive, so I'll do whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah, thought I had before we started this was actually bringing in the idea of like how that differs between the masculine and the feminine, because I think as women being entrepreneurs, being business owners, we seem to think that we can only be successful when we adopt a male mentality to building or running a company. Because yes, is there anything you've noticed within successful females within business, or is there any difference between that emotional and logical capacity of their brain to see things differently?
I think I'm just picturing some of the like leaders that I'm working with now, and I don't think they fall into the binary of, oh, this is a male and they act in this kind of more stereotypically male big business and vice versa. So I don't know. That's my first thought, is that I think anyone can fall into any potential pitfalls depending on, like, regardless of gender,
Mm.
in terms of, yeah, that idea, I suppose, of I do sometimes see female business owners being a little more community driven, and I think tapping into their network a little bit more.
Huh.
Again, that's a big generalization and doesn't apply to everyone, but I feel like I see a little bit more of that kind of contribution to a network and being willing to kind of share ideas and learn from each other. And again, maybe
Interesting.
it seems to be really valuable for women to get into a space where it is maybe just all women. So there isn't that external kind of, oh, this is the way it should be.
Yeah.
From all these different women doing things in so many different ways. Yeah. So, and I think that is something that, going back to a question you asked earlier about what do the, maybe successful or not successful kind of business owners do. And I think it's the social aspect, the social support, like recognizing that you can't and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
I think that's really key to growing as a person and as a business owner, because yes, having social support is one of the biggest protective factors against stress.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I need to challenge my perspective. It's not so much masculine and feminine, because I think it's just about nervous system. I think anybody that is dysregulated or being chased by a tiger is only going to have one view, that they're in it. It's all them. It's all on me. I need to survive. You don't really allow yourself the space to think about community or bringing other people in because you are trying to survive. So maybe that's just relevant for gender, or regardless of where you're at. But maybe it's kind of stereotypically been seen as more of like a masculine view. I don't know. It's just interesting. I think that loudness or that sense of self-confidence and success in women sometimes is presented, especially on social media, I guess, as a bit more confrontational or assertive. And is there space for us to be successful, but also be soft and in our feminine, but also be multi-billionaires and achieve that? It's just something I've been reflecting on recently, is, are we still being kept small to some degree because it fits a very, I don't know, view of the world?
Definitely studies on kind of likability versus confidence, that apparently women in workplaces, that as their confidence goes up there, surround yourself with, that you do admire and look up to, that they'll challenge you and will support you, that they've got your back and they want you to be even better,
Yes. Yeah, no. Taking you back to the tough conversations that you mentioned earlier, how do you teach somebody that you work with to be able to upskill in that area, or what do you see within?
I think like one of the biggest things is actually just doing it. You know, as
Okay.
people sometimes spend so much time thinking they would do this, now should do that. And it's like, they don't know you're thinking that. They don't there. So I think the first one is just like, they're not mind readers, you know, and if you have a challenge and you see it as something that's persisting and you really want to address it, like, yeah, you have to address it. And I think doing it quicker and imperfectly is probably better than waiting, building up that resentment and annoyance.
Yeah.
Eventually going, okay, I can't ignore this anymore. I have to have a conversation. So I think trying to build that ability to do it like regularly, often, just quickly, a small conversation rather than it becoming this big thing. I think actually just having the courage to do it is one. I think when it comes to having these conversations as well, is it's usually, if you think of kind of two dimensions of like caring personally and challenging directly, those two work really well together. So that's from someone called Kim Scott so she had this book called Radical Candor.
Oh,
I love it. And I find that it really resonates with a lot of managers because the courage or dial up the compassion, right? Like caring, some people are just like, I'm just to the point. I have something to say, I'm going to say it. And they don't really care how it, and that's great. You've got your point across, but haven't built trust. Or is this person then going, oh, I hate this manager, you know, I don't want to do what they say.
Okay.
Right. So showing that you actually care and then being willing to challenge as well. So again, some people are just super caring and they really like want the best for their employees. Then when it comes to a performance issue, they're afraid to. So most managers, it's either dialing up one or the other. The skill to be flexible with it. So like, say, for example, if you were having a tough conversation with an employee and, you know, they become really upset. Again, if you're less skilled, you might kind of retreat and go, oh, okay, forget I said anything, you know.
Sure.
This is, I didn't mean to upset you. I'm so sorry. And, you know, and you worry about yourself, you worry about them, and the whole message gets forgotten. Whereas instead, maybe it's staying in that moment, dialing up the compassion, but not losing the courage either. Time to allow them to feel what they're feeling and then revisit the issue rather than being scared of it because they're emotional about it and that's scary. You know, it's like expressing emotions is, we got to be more comfortable.
Yeah. Do you think that's one of the main barriers people resist, or business owners like resist having those difficult conversations, is the emotional impact of it? Like, what do you think actually stops them?
To be like, a lot of people just, it's either the discomfort in themselves and or the discomfort that they can see in others that they're trying to avoid. And that's probably what gets in our way in a lot of areas, is that unwillingness to really feel the discomfort and the unwillingness to risk not being liked. Again, I think a lot of leaders know that that's not a rational fear, kind of like before. They know it's not life or death. Typically, it's overestimated how much having a good, open, respectful conversation.
And something I've gotten more used to, probably in maybe the last year, maybe even 2 years since I've been more into psychology and mindset, is actually being able to validate the emotions I'm sensing in my clients during their check-ins or during their coaching sessions, is to be, hey, you use that word, I'm getting the sense of this, instead of just waiting till after the call and going, oh, I knew they thought that and they're feeling that and I'm intuitive enough to pick up on that. But it's fine. I just won't address it. You know, if they're, I can see frustration in them when they're saying, you know, I'm not losing weight, I'm not doing this, and I'll be like, you sound frustrated. I think to not acknowledge the emotion is quite invalidating.
Yeah, and it can make such a. It sounds like a small statement, but it can make such a huge impact. I've had it before where, you know, even someone just going, "Are you?"
Right. Interesting.
Stop crying, stop expressing the emotion, which does not mean the emotion will go away.
No. Yeah, and if you haven't created a culture of safety, I guess, within a business, that can be quite dangerous, because all you've got is a team of people walking around feeling unsafe and expressing what their true thoughts and feelings are, because they're not going to be received well when they are. So, yeah.
It's kind of like, again, we all are picking up different kind of cultural messages, right? So it's not like the fault of a particular manager or leader who comes into the workplace and maybe just copies what was done before them. And maybe what their manager used to say was, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions, which I think is quite a common phrase for managers to say. But what you're kind of telling people is it's not safe to bring up a mistake. If there is a mistake, you should either solve it, which is great, but if you can't, hide it. And it's like we're not learning from that mistake. Like, when people are like, oh, we learn from experience all the time, we're not constantly learning. We need to stop and reflect and actually look at what we're experiencing and what the mistake was and where it came from, rather than just doing and doing and doing and expecting there to be learning happening automatically.
Yeah, true. It's a hard test to live, is because you don't the foresight of knowing how to do things. You just have to live them and hope that you take the lessons away from that next time it comes across. But yeah, and I guess a sense of safety, especially when you're working with women, in what I do with hormones and body and the way that shows up in physical manifestations in terms of blood work or sleep or health issues is so dominant. Do you see any correlation with business owners, like in how their physical health is by any chance? Or
So I can't say for definite, but I do think there is that. It is often normal to ignore what your body is telling you to do.
really, you think?
See it a lot with, oh yeah, I'm constantly exhausted. Yeah, I think energy is probably the biggest signal.
Yeah.
And a call with someone and they might be yawning or they might be going, oh, sorry, like I just had a really bad night's sleep
Interesting.
with all that's going on right now. So it is like, I think energy is the biggest one, and not building in time for renewing that energy. I've fallen into that with myself as well when I was younger. I remember, having a work day where I was like, I'm not really that stressed. I think I'm fine. Why am I so low energy? I think I'm getting enough sleep. Went to the doctor, did the blood work, tell me what's low and I can bring it up or whatever, and I'll just do that. And I'm like, not that easy. They're like, are you stressed? I was like, don't. And then you think of what it actually looks like, and it was very little, it might be like coming into work, sitting in traffic, coming in, and maybe like the weather outside is cold or miserable, so you just stay inside all day. I would just like eat my lunch at my desk kind of without really taking a proper break because there's so much to do. So you're not really going outside, you're not really moving much. And then I'd come to the end of the day, I'd want to go to the gym. So I would just drink caffeine or like an energy drink, and so, and like, so I'm not socializing a huge amount. I'm not actually taking any breaks. I'm not, how would my energy be restored other than sleeping? But again, like that's not the only way that we can ourselves.
Yeah, and it's tricky because I think people are in this narrative of thinking that they have to do that or that's normal. It's become hyper normalized to punish yourself because that is a signal of success or the right direction. And I remember asking you when we had coffee the other week about like, I struggle to be in my body. I live in from the neck up. I'm all about the internal world. Everything is sometimes quite loud for me. So I remember saying like, I don't know physically how stress would show up in me. Like, unless I'm physically injured, okay, great. I would then be able to like, wait, I'm stressed. Yeah. I was like, how else would I know? I'm like, but what else is there in our body communicating to us? But it's the gut, right? It's the impact of the quality of our sleep. It's our body's ability to heal from injuries, or I guess tightness in muscles and things like that, especially if you're trying to maintain your health and training.
A lot of the people that I work with, it is like you kind of just read there, it's like any illness or that kind of thing is just an inconvenience rather than a message to listen to, and how do you just kind of push past this? Yeah, like I get it. If there's people depending on you, you have to pay for people's salaries, you've got all these kind of things. Like, of course, I understand it, but it is worth definitely considering, like, how sustainable is this long term? Yeah. How can I sustain this high performance if it's involving, if your current plan is to just keep going and not take a break, or maybe take, a holiday once a year or something like that. Like, if you don't build in the breaks, the pauses, your body will take one at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, it won't. It will cash in that check when you least need it, just so you get the most impact out of that message.
And like so many business owners are now considering, say, like their environmental impact. They're thinking, how can I, make this business sustainable and minimize the impact on the environment? We can do the same for ourselves, I suppose. Like, how can I make sure that I'm, using my energy wisely, like to use the same kind of like in a sustainable energy efficiency sense.
Yeah. I think if we had somebody and we got them to say, like, if they lived in that world and they were like, say those words to me, say you do not see your energy as a priority. You do not view, especially in my world, food. Like, just say that out loud for me, because then you'll realize what that really is a message to, like, what that's how you view yourself. That's a life source. Food is vitality. It's energy. So you mean you don't prioritize you. You're not a value.
Yeah.
Everything else is more important than you.
Like what? Like you wouldn't just keep driving your car with
Yeah.
empty warning signal going. You go and you refill it and you make sure it's the right kind.
And it's such a reflection of really how you view yourself. But I guess it's sometimes generationally seen as a bit too self-indulgent to be seen as prioritizing yourself, to live I don't want to say a slower life, because I don't really believe in balance. I think it's just juggling priorities. I'm not really about, it's just nervous system management. I think if you do want to be what your definition of successful is, which is important because everyone's is different, it's like, well, you need to like, why, how can you put that outside of you? How can you show up and have what you want in life when you think these things aren't valuable enough to you? Just means you don't think you're valuable. Your worth is out there, not inside. So sometimes that's where I get a lot of business owners or coaches is they've sacrificed all of that, because I have to give them the mirror and go, you realize all of your behaviors are a representation of how you view yourself. And that's quite tricky, because you have to understand the origins of that to be able to fix it.
And like it can take a good bit, right? If you become addicted to sort of a constant go, 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 like it does take a lot of effort to then be slow still.
Yeah.
And not feel uncomfortable with that.
And rest isn't sexy. It's not glamorous. It doesn't show up well as a poster child.
Yeah, and I feel like even your rest has to be in pursuit of a goal. Like
Yeah.
you're going to run a marathon and this is your hobby and this is your, side thing. Any kind of hobby interest can be commodified. You could sell that, you could promote that. No, just do it because you enjoy it. Like, why is that so foreign to us that do something for pure enjoyment and play?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of rare. I think that people actually do something that's active. I think people sometimes are exhausted. They come home and they, watch TV or whatever, and that's fine. You're resting, but doing something that's active, not in pursuit of any kind of goal.
No, and there doesn't seem to be much intentionality behind it. It's always being forced into it. I'll get clients or business owners be like, "Yeah, I rested because you were injured. You physically couldn't." Or I ate more because you didn't eat for 3 days because you were ill. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the super compensation of living in these two extreme worlds. It's like, well, one can justify the other. It's like, well, and that's usually a representation of their mental health is, okay, well, I can eat because I've done this extreme thing, or I've rested, but it's because I was bedbound, literally. So now I feel okay taking rest. It's like, what happened to this middle section that does exist? Yeah.
Does take that effort both in yourself, the internal work, and also on your business. Like say I went to an event a while back and there was a business owner there and he was talking about his experience of I think he had some kind of head injury and he went to the hospital. They were kind of going, okay, you're going to need to take 6 weeks off work. And he was like, oh, no. You don't need to give me a note off work. It's okay. Like, how long do I actually need to rest? And they were like, you're lucky to be alive. So
yeah.
He was like, okay. A lot of people, like, 6 weeks or if, it could be 6 months, like something could take you out of action. What's going to happen to your business? If you have put that effort into, setting things up well with the right kind of processes and systems and, obviously it's not going to be perfect if you have to take 6 months out, but
No.
able to kind of keep that going. I suppose it's worth thinking of that in advance, right? And
Of course.
sometimes they're just living in the moment, immediate, urgent challenges, but actually think, well, what if?
I've got a few clients in a minute that are in coming up to thinking about perhaps retiring or stepping away from work. And they're at a chapter where they're thinking that they need to understand themselves a bit more because their whole life has been their career, it's their identity. And they're actually scared of the time that they will have for themselves when that isn't filled with something. So what happens when you step away and you need to have a day where you just do what you want? And that's quite scary when you've looked externally to find a sense of yourself and you haven't spent enough time not thinking your whole personality is your business.
There's nothing wrong with getting purpose for work, but it's funny you mentioned that because I actually had that call yesterday with, a couple who are kind of preparing what does the next phase.
Yeah.
Not quite at the, they still love the work, but starting to think about it. And so it's kind of preparing them to step back and then preparing the other managers to step up.
Mm.
So we're doing both the practical stuff of, okay, who deals with who, and where are the logins for this or the
Yeah.
so for that, like the kind of practical stuff. Whereas if you have these managers who are always going to, they have all the answers, and if I ever have a problem, I go to them. We're starting to shift that away from it being, oh yeah, I can always go to the owner. It's like, well, how do we make it so that it doesn't need to go through them and through the owners?
Yeah.
As well as that, I suppose I had a call with the yesterday, and what I sent to them afterwards was this kind of personal vision document.
Oh,
It's
nice.
just prompts that they can just think of what does this act. I'll just step away from the business and kind of just thinking expansively and just brainstorming in a really creative way.
I love that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. That's so common, I suppose. But what I'm doing with a lot of leaders at the moment is stepping up and the stepping back.
Yeah. And something I've been reflecting on recently, I guess, which is in line with that, is like, how do you want your perfect day to look like, right? As a vision. And my business mentor said that to me, and I was like, no, I don't think you understand. I've reverse engineered it. I'm living my perfect day now, so I don't really know. I'm good. Like, am I too good? That's where my gaslighting as a business owner is because my happiness isn't out there with a certain amount of money, a certain amount of clients. Like, I started living it. And I'm blessed to be in an environment that is maybe more conducive to certain facilitation of that. I don't, is it too far in that way? That's where my kind of business brain is like, no, are you too comfortable? Do you need to do that? So I guess there's pros and cons to losing all sense of self with your business and then having so much sense of self. You're like, no, I just made it happen already. Like, I'm good. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm all about reverse engineering. I think people just think all their hopes and dreams are out there in something, someone. It's not. It's right there. It's right there.
You gotta visualize like this is what I want. Then you can start to figure out all the different ways to get there. Once you lose the expectations and the pressures and the kind of external view of what success is, or once you can kind of peel that back.
Yeah. Well, this morning I was watching a podcast of yours on YouTube that you did during COVID. It was 5 whole years ago. And my question for you wasn't so much on the content of, I think it was Paddy's Friday something. I can't remember the exact title. Forgive me. Yeah, and you just look so different in it. Just such a younger version of yourself. And it was so cute. But you were talking obviously in reference to kind of COVID and the changes through that. And I was wondering, have you changed your mind on anything that Julie 5 years ago would have probably said in that YouTube video?
Of allowing the messiness of being a human to come into my life a little bit and not trying to be perfect. And that, because again, like I mentioned, that perfectionism, like in there as well, but more so in the emotional perfectionism way, where some emotions are allowed and permitted and some are, we allow certain things and like, look, I'm not saying to wallow in certain emotions. It's just that they are data and they're telling us something and we can tune into it and listen to it. Like, say, for example, I don't know, like if you met up with like another business owner, and you come away from the conversation, you're like, I'm actually feeling maybe jealous. I think maybe if you have that emotional perfectionism, I shouldn't be feeling jealous. I'm their friend. I'm such a bad friend now that I felt this way. Oh, I need to push that away. I'm not allowed to feel it. You could kind of go, yeah, they don't deserve their success. And, you kind of feel the jealousy and you kind of try and bring them down a little. Also to give, do I feel jealous? Oh, maybe their business is about to be, bought. And that's pretty cool, actually. Maybe I want something like that for my own business. I mean, I'm pretty far off it, but maybe I could make that happen. What would I do to make it happen? It could just be a message that might tell you something if you open it and look at it with a bit of curiosity. So I think that's some changed over time is trying to actually allow those feelings and to sit with them and again notice where they're coming up in my body and building that trust with myself. Then the next time that signal goes off, I feel a little more able to tune into than just, okay, no time for that. I'm gonna go and check my,
Yeah.
something else. So I think that's one thing that I feel quite differently about is kind of like yourself, coming out of the head. Like a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of thoughts going around and just kind of trying to quieten that down a little bit. And I suppose I've always known that meditation is good and mindfulness is good, but actually practicing and making it a bit more. It's going to be in a few years' time or maybe a few decades. I think it will be what exercise is to the body now.
Interesting.
What is that? If you started running around when you were in the 50s or something, people didn't really do that. But now it's so normal and you kind of feel bad if you haven't done it. So I actually think that mindfulness might become similar because it has think and how we feel and how we operate then. So
Yeah. Mindfulness, it's an interesting one. Obviously that shows up in food and in how you experience your body. And I've got in the applications form, one of my questions is like, how fast do you eat? To my clients, they're like, yeah, I eat really fast. I'm like, what? Like, how fast are we talking? Like, yeah, really fast. I'm like, so are you surprised you feel hungry? Like, what? You're eating like you're in prison. Nobody's taking your food away from you. Like, where's the threat? Like, where did that sense of rushedness with something that's kind of, I don't know, I guess it's supposed to be respected. I think there's a lack of respect sometimes for food.
be available for a lot. It's easy to prepare or it's easy to buy or,
Recognizing the emotions you're experiencing, just referencing the whole jealousy and envy thing. And I think people will always project their own inner world, which is usually coming from a place of insecurity, inadequacy, or scarcity. So something I found quite challenging recently is to experience that. When you challenge yourself, you either grow in business, grow in other areas, you will see people show up differently because it challenges them. You don't then live inside that box of what they put you in. So that's something I found interesting, is that that's quite a challenge, really. And I guess most business owners will experience that through periods of growth or in personal relationships. The whole, you might have a million followers, but not a single one of your friends and family is the one supporting it. It's just a load of strangers. That disconnect of who really is supporting you, and recognizing that, what emotion is it? Jealousy? Is it envy? Sometimes I find it hard, and you probably do as well, to not have cognitive empathy, to always not consider why people behave the way they do. A therapist once told me that I'm pretty good at skipping the accountability part. I just go to the understandings. I'm like, I know why they did that. It's fine.
Yeah.
I know. So when anybody wrongs me, whenever I'm experiencing an situation, I'm like, I understand why they did it. In their world, that makes sense to them.
And that's actually something else that I kind of struggle with as well, because I think it can be such a gift to not hold grudging, to wrong me, right? Or they've made an enemy for life. And the other side of that is, do you just, like, what do you permit?
Yeah.
Do you just kind of allow, oh yeah, well, they probably have good intentions, so it's fine.
I was listening to a really interesting perspective on tolerance and the fact that women are able to tolerate because of what we're biologically supposed to endure in life, which is the process of giving birth. Is sometimes we end up in toxic situations or situations that are damaging to us just because we can tolerate it, because the tolerance in us gets abused. So I think I sometimes recognize that in maybe some clients that are in jobs that are very unfulfilling, relationship dynamics that aren't serving them. I think women are very used to tolerating, and we're not very good at being able to step away from knowing what's not good for us just because we can tolerate it. I'm not, yeah.
They do. I can see that with, again, even in conversations, the way people, talk about themselves or their jobs or their situation, and not expecting any more. Like, I think especially maybe the generation just before us, I feel like I see that a lot with
Okay.
it's kind of you just get on with it, you just make do. And my mom was very like that. Incredibly strong person who I really, really admire. And sometimes I'm just like, you can like, it's okay if this has stressed you or if this has upset you. Like, when I think, I don't know, just some of the stuff in her life, I'm like, I can admire that. Like, maybe I need a little more of that sometimes.
Sure.
But then there's also is it just keep going, keep going, keep going, and never going, wait, hang on. So I don't like this and I can change it and I'm responsible for changing it.
You're right. In the podcast episode I listened to, you were talking about languages and the stories you tell yourself about situations, and you got to listen to that, because when sometimes clients will tell me about their week and then they'll get to the end of it, they're like, yeah, okay, saying that, like they've already answered it. Just because I've spoken it out loud, they understand that there's two languages, one that you use and one that uses you. You've got to be very specific and intentional about how you describe things. Oh, that was really bad. What does bad mean? What was bad about it? I'm not invalidating your experience of it, but how you've told yourself about it, how you relate to that, is exactly why you're probably not moving through it, or why it's just going to keep coming up. So whether that's, a money issue or relationships, I think it's all about how you're perceiving something. If you can get a grasp on that and break free of any of the ego talk of, okay, yeah, I'm just scared about something, then you can maybe see progress in areas. Yeah, which is kind of wild. But you also mentioned journaling I think it was more of a recent podcast I listened to on yours on YouTube, and I agree. I think journaling is probably, I did not understand it. Again, me being me, tried to intellectualize my way through most self-care ideas, concepts. So journaling, I needed the perfect prompt. I needed to know exactly what to do. I needed the right setup. I was on a quest of not actually doing it properly.
Or I'm like, I want this to just change my life just by writing for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I about myself, or my lack of self-awareness, as somebody that tends to hold that badge of honor pretty strongly, of like, wow, you really thought you could intellectualize your way out of something that is just putting your thoughts onto a page. And since I got a grasp of that, I filled notebook upon notebook upon notebook, and it's been the most helpful behavior I incorporate into my daily life. Yeah,
You do every day.
I do. I try to. If there's a particular situation I'm trying to move through or work through, then it really helps me process those thoughts. If you could give one parting gift to a business owner of a skill that they might want to consider developing, what would you gift them to help them with their management, their business? What would you pick?
But maybe because you've just been talking about it, is the ability to recognize and feel what you're feeling. Because I think that, you know, when we are operating from that place of fear, scarcity, or, fight or flight, we're not going to be able to, I suppose, enjoy. So I think the ability, and again, our relationships will improve as well with that ability to feel what you're feeling and communicate it to certain people so they see, oh, this is a real human,
Yeah.
vulnerable. So I think that would be a gift, and I could just give it to everybody. I feel like a lot of people would benefit.
Is to not just try to intellectual or just move through it.
Yeah. Push past and then wait until you get to that point where you can't go physically can't. Yeah. And actually, face fears head on as well, and recognizing like what they're trying to tell you or how to then overcome them.
Yeah, it's an important message to learn how to be a human being and not just a human doing. We're very used to just constantly doing things.
And on that, maybe if this is something that you're feeling like you need to work on, I feel like I think setting yourself an approach goal that you work towards. Say, for example, if someone's like, I need to, so figure out what's really important to them. And then, what gets in the way of that? Oh, well, I kind of log off from work, but then at 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. I'm checking emails and responding. Okay, what my goal is to just not check my emails in the evening. Like, that's not going to be a very satisfying goal if you actually achieve it. So I think for people who are in that space of wanting to achieve goals, I feel like that's a different way to do it might be, today I'm going to read my child a bedtime story.
Nice.
So something you're working towards, you're achieving. If you feel like you've accomplished something in that space of something that matters to you outside of
True. Well, sad point in which we have come to the end of our time, which I could talk to you for hours, and we do. So it just means I'll have to get you on again at some point. But thank you so much for being here with me today, and as always, I appreciate you. Bye. Thank you. Yeah.